How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we start another project. You probably by now have an idea what way we're going with this. So let's get to it. This ought to be a good one. That's correct. By now you ought to know that this is going to be a General Lee. Got the opening hood and everything, so there's going to be some detailing involved, at least a little bit. Not much. But we're going to turn this into a General Lee. And, well, not much to say. This is a beautiful casting. It is actually from Greenlight, 2007 model, so that makes it a 2008. Very nicely detailed, but it has the correct front end. Rear end is not correct, but that's okay. We'll get by with that. So the first thing we can do is get this bad boy apart. Some small posts on this bad boy. Oh my God, look how short it is. But it didn't get no deeper than that. The back will be fine. I wouldn't understand why companies put those in. Man. Alright, let's give it its own little case. Well, alright, let's put everything in the case so we don't lose it. What's that? The dash. The interior, which we may end up painting, I don't know, and the engine. Next step for this bad boy, you know it, into the liquid goo, into the North Carolina red clay. Been a rainy season here in North Carolina. Anytime anything runs off the road, she gets stuck, and I mean stuck heavy. And that's no different case with that. Generally, can go anywhere or do anything, but North Carolina gets you every time. Now we're going to look over this and just try to see if there's anything that we need to take care of at this point, because once you prime and paint it, you don't want to re-strip this bad boy, you know, like getting the brush down into the engine bay or the cracks for the trunk or around the lights, you know, anywhere where there might be leftover citrus strip or paint. You just want to take the brush and just, you know, go over it. I mean, you can go over the whole car, but what I like to do is I like to hit anywhere where there might be any built-up residue. Hood vents, door cracks, where the engine goes, around the headlights, the tail lights, trunk grooves, anything like that. I always try to hit it with that. And then depending on which way I'm going to go with it, if I do the whole car with the brush, I'll then start sanding it with 320. If I decide that I want to do something a little different, if I don't want to hit the whole car with the brush, I'll hit the body with the steel wool, the 4.0 steel wool or 4/0 steel wool, however you want to look at it. And you know, this just cleans everything off, and then we can go from there and look at the casting itself and see if there's any more work that we need to do to it, or if we can leave there and go straight to wash and priming. Just like right here, I found these two casting lines right going down the B pillar and going to the rear quarter panel. It's not that bad on the B pillar, but once it gets down on the quarter panel, I can run my fingernail across it and I can actually feel it, and you can see it really good. So I'm going to hit it with some 80 grit, and then I'll follow it up with 320. But if I can't get it with that, I'm going to break out the files. And you know, you kind of have to be careful when you use files, but we'll talk about that if I need to. So I'm going to hit it with this and we'll go from there. Okay, as you can see, I had to break out the file because this just wasn't going to get the top of the rear quarter panels. Now you have to be careful when doing this, like I said, not to let it rub up against the B-pillar and dig into the side of that. And you want to kind of hit it in long strokes. You don't want to hit just the section where the raised part is. You want to ride the high section, but you want to file it in long strokes. That way it starts making contact with the low section. Once it starts making contact with the low section, you know you've removed that spot. But we're just going to work with it slightly and keep checking. And just check it every so often and make sure you don't go too far. You only want to go as far as you absolutely have to. And once you do that, you can stop. Now I can actually take this and get the side of it too, but you have this trim line right along the back side of the window, and you want to kind of stay away from that. If you can use the file to get it, fine, but by all means stay away from that trim, because if you take the trim off the back, you're going to have to take that trim off all the way around, or it'll look odd when you paint it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to use the tip of the file and hit it in the longest, the full length of the area, and there you go, it's gone. And then now I can hit it with the sandpaper. I'll hit it with the 80 grit to get rid of the filing marks, and then I'll hit it with the 320 to get rid of the rough sanding marks and smooth it down to where I have learned that 320, if you're going to prime and use good primer or sealer, you don't need to go any further than that, because it will absolutely fill up any scratches or any sanding marks left behind. But we're just going to work and keep working at it and try to get all the major filing marks down and the really coarse sanding marks from the 80 grit, and then we'll go over the whole car. That way it gives the primer and the paint something to stick to, because the primer needs something to stick to. It really won't stick to a really polished body. Then you hit it with the paint, which gives the paint something to stick to. Primer sticks to metal, paint sticks to primer. So I'm just going to go over the whole car here and get it ready for primer. Alright, time to prime some of this stuff up. So what we're going to be using today is white Autoborn sealer, and the reason we're using white, it says reduce 10%. White sealer. The reason we're going to be using white is because we want the colors to pop. We're going to be using an orange, we're going to be using a blue, in a light blue, not a dark blue. So we want these colors to pop. If we put them over gray, that would make the colors look a little bit duller, a little bit flatter. And if we put them over black, that's going to make them look even that much more darker. And one of these days I'm going to show you side-by-side comparison on a white spoon, on a gray spoon, and on a black spoon. But for today, we're just going to use the white Autoborn sealer, like I said, because we're using light colors for the paint. I've already shook this up pretty good. I don't think we'll need any more than that after I add the sealer to it, the reducer to it. That should be plenty. Now we're just going to mix it up. And we'll just check it, We want it a little thicker than water, but we don't want it as thick as chocolate. They say the consistency of milk, but what is that? You just have to use your own judgment. But that's what we're going to do. We're just going to mix this up, and if we think it's pretty good, you can tell by, when you tilt it over in the cup, it moves pretty quick. So I could actually add just a hair more paint to that and be just fine. But I don't want to add too much because I don't want to waste. So that should be just fine. We're going to mix this up real good. Let it set for a minute or two while we get everything set up, and then we'll get to painting. We got everything set up outside, so now we're going to add the paint, or sealer rather, and that should be enough to do 10 cars. But that's okay. That is okay. Put the cap on it because I'm going to be doing all kind of crazy stuff. Okay, as you can see, we've got this bad boy clear coated. We're going to be putting the decals on it and trying to do some of the detailing on it. I know I'm going to paint the grill black, and I know I'm going to paint the black valance black and the tail lights red. I'm not sure how much in the engine bay I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do the engine, but outside of that I just don't know yet. So with that being said, let's get to it. This is the tedious part. I've got the back blacked out, I've got the front blacked out. Now I've got to put decals on it, so let's get to that bad boy. And as I'm sure you've guessed, this is what we're going to be going with. That's right, the good old General Lee. So let's cut off the ones that we want, and we'll start the process of putting these on. Now the decals I'm using is from Second Chance Red Lines, and we are using the actual TV version set. So it's got all the proper outlines and everything, but you want to be careful when you cut these out because he uses white toner, and the lettering and everything is actually outlined in white. I don't know if you can see that or not, as is the flag itself. So you don't want to cut that off. You want to get close, but you don't want to get so close that you cut that off. So there's that. I'm going to get the rest of these cut out, and then we'll get started. Alright, let's get this bad boy finished up. Move that bad boy out of the way. She's gorgeous. But this is the one we're working on tonight. More vintage style. This is a green light. Really not much detailing you can do in there. I started to detail the engine, but I thought it looked just good the way it was. I did do the radiator and the radiator cap. I did the front end and the rear end. I think it turned out really good. That gloss, oh man, that thing is sexy. But with that stated, we're gonna get this finished up tonight. So all we need is the base. I got the base done. Wheels are the factory wheels that come on. No, they're not generally wheels, but that was part of the plan, not to change the tires and wheels. So, but let's get this bad boy taken care of. The only thing I do not like about this is that I cannot drill and tap that. I'm going to have to fix it another way. So with that stated, let's get it taken care of. First thing in is the glass, and I'm going to glue it. Just put a dab of glue on it just to hold it in, because this had a rivet holding it and they wanted it to be held in for a reason. I'm not exactly sure what that reason is, but I'm not going to second guess them. I'll put a little dab of the activator on it to help it dry quicker, just like so. And then all that's left is the dash and the interior and the hood. Got the hood on, looks really good. But as you can see, the dash actually helps hold the hood on, because it goes up on these two posts right here. Hope you can see that. It goes up on those two posts. I got that snapped into place. Put a dab of glue on there to help hold it so it doesn't move around and everything. And this is starting to take shape. As you can see, I did the interior. I painted it, oh sorry. As you can see, I painted the interior. It was originally black. I touched up the shifter, the window cranks, the gas pedals, and the dashboard, and painted the steering wheel black. And I mean, this thing just looked really, really good. I am super happy with the way it turned out. Now all we have to do is put the interior in, put the base on it, and this bad boy is finished. Now these, I noticed with the Auto World and the Greenlight, you kind of have to squish the sides in, because you can see they separate a little bit in order to get them to go back in, because if you don't, they won't fit and you're going to mess your paint job up. And we don't want paint jobs messed up. So now I always use screws to hold my cars together. But sometimes you just have to do like the Marines and improvise, adapt, and overcome. Because when I drilled this post out right here, I knew instantly that I was not going to be able to drill and tap it. And I'll show you why in a second, but I knew as soon as I took the car apart that I was just going to have to super glue it. Because, you know, sometimes there isn't a fix. Sometimes we have to come up with a fix. But when I drilled this post out, there just wasn't any metal on the other side. And I'll open the hood and I'll show you, but the screw was going to come out right here. It's going to come out in between the engine and the radiator. There's no metal there, so you know I just had to improvise and glue it together. I don't like doing it, but if I would have drilled it out, it would have went all the way through, and I would have really screwed up the car. But with that stated, you know, it turned out great. I was happy with the outcome, and yes, I'm fixing to show you the reveal. But the owner of this car not only has this one, he has this one. And I hope he enjoys these two cars as much as I enjoy doing them, because they were both super fun to do. One is a more modern generally, and one is the older type generally. Now if you look at this, I've started doing this on lighter colored bodies. I make the bases a hair darker than I do the body, just for a little bit more personal touch. Just, you know, a way to say, look at, you know, I did this, you know, nobody else is doing this. This is how I do it. But with that stated, I'd like to thank the owner again for allowing me to do this, for him trusting in my capabilities to do this. And yeah, let's see the final outcome.